Okay.
Happy New Month.
Okoyemi Ogusade, senior economist at Financial Derivatives. We'll be back after the break. We'll get a feel of today's trading, the first trading day in the month of December, I beg your pardon. Why do I like the month of October? I'm going to ask myself that question later. Stick around. We'll be back in 1 minute.
Want to know what's trending or you miss your favorite live shows? You can watch it all on our YouTube channel. Simply log on to www.youtube.com/channelsweb. Scroll down to your favorite program and click play. You can also view all uploaded videos by clicking on View All. Don't forget to subscribe and get the latest videos. If they are interesting, like them and be heard. Get connected with the channel's television YouTube page. The news at your fingertips.
All right, we're back to the final lap of the program. Let's start from where we started with the PMI data for Nigeria is now out on the streets. FBN Quest Investment and Securities Research Firm says the index came in at 54.4 reading for the month we just finished against 52.6 in the month of October, saying, quote unquote, this comfortably above water. Highest for output, lowest for new orders, all in these indices in positive territory. That is what the index shows this morning. That's a survey of business and consumer confidence expectations. Nigeria's manufacturing data coming in this morning at 54.4. That will be part of the conversation for the third quarter data when they're out in a couple of weeks down the line. We'll find out what the final quarter of 2014 really look like, not with the central bank liquidity easing that we had in the final week of November. Okay, so let's welcome December with today's pre-market. Let's get across to Olawale Olusi, who is joining us via Skype in Lagos here to talk about these markets that we are in right now. Olawale, thank you very much for coming through. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Watson. Good morning.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's talk equities a little bit. So far, we've seen the Nigerian stock market, one of the worst performing markets on the continent in 2015, coming slightly behind Egypt and Zimbabwe. However, Ivory Coast, the BRVM, seemed to be the poster boy for Africa, doing index return almost 20%. That's quite significant. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, the African market has been pretty funny. Just like you said, except for the BRVN and I think the South African Johannesburg market that are currently above the water. Most markets in Africa are basically down and pretty much very down. I mean, Nigeria is down over 20%. Same thing with Kenya. Egypt is also down. Yes, I think what is supporting growth in South African market and some of the DVN market that you mentioned are probably the stability we've seen in those markets and the fact that the economy is not as basically related to what's happening in the global oil market compared to countries like Nigeria that is ravaged by insecurity, same with Kenya, that's also ravaged by insecurity. And of course, so Egypt was doing pretty much well earlier in the year, but that tide has changed. But for the Nigerian market, we have our own personal issue apart from global oil prices. We have restriction on FX. We have some of the uncertainty surrounding CBN policy in that space that have, kind of kept foreign investors, on the watch. And of course, domestic investors are not doing too well in terms of that. Today is 1st of December, and the market is down over 20%. So we think that this trend might likely continue even for the rest of the month, and of course, the last month in the year. There's a likelihood that the market might decline this year because just before now, we were checking the numbers, and December has actually been a pretty much good month in Nigeria. I mean, from 1985 to date, the market has returned positively much for more years than it has in Nigeria. But in 2008 and 7, during the global financial crisis, sometime in 2005 as well, we saw something that looked like what we are witnessing right now in the market. So if such trend is anything to go by, there's a huge likelihood that the outlook for the market this month might be negative in Nigeria as well.
Olawale, you mentioned something quite interesting in the early part of your conversation, the impact. We'll come back to what you call the January effect that usually starts from December. Oh, thanks for bringing that in. But of course, let's go back to that conversation, part of your comment regarding insecurity. Significantly, Nigeria, with the Boko Haram and the other ethnic, whatever, problem around the mid-central part of the country between the herdsmen and what have you. Then you have the Al-Shabaab in Kenya with the problems over there. Then you go to Egypt with the problem with the Sharm el-Sheikh and what have you. The correlation there between insecurity and how foreign investors and perhaps even the local investors begin to get jittery about their investment and what they should spend money on, considering the specter of insurgency, deadly, violently deadly kidnappings of girls, schoolgirls, and keeping guys waking up at night not knowing what show is going to happen next. This is beginning to affect stock market. That's what you're saying.
Yes, very much. Investors don't like uncertainty. They don't like insecurity. If investors want to put their money in your market, they want to be sure that this is what is going to happen for at least a reasonable period of time. But with bad news flow, when there is a negative news in the market, it affects investors' confidence negatively. So when you have negative news flow that doesn't sell your market well, I think it is logical to expect investors to want to pull back. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so let's move on now to what you call the January effect, which is usually December. And you brought that out very nicely there. We've always had a very bullish December in this market for nearly 2 decades. December, your short stock prices will climb and it will rally into January. So it's called the January effect. Again, because folks are spending towards the end of the year, the consumer goods, industrial goods, people are buying cement, they are buying all kind of industrial goods to make up new apartments, they're paying for school fees and things like that. So things look really, really nice for equities towards in December. But it looks like this year, we're going to go back to 2007, 2008 period.
Yeah, there's a huge likelihood that happened because looking at the trend in the last 1 decade, for example, the only years we recorded decline in December is actually the years of the global financial crisis, even in Nigeria. So last year was still positive of about 2.3%. Previous year and about 3 years down, we had an average of about 2.5 to 3% average appreciation in December. But this year, looking at all the headwinds and all the uncertainty, there's a huge likelihood. And of course, if you look at corporate earnings as well, and the fact that investors can only be bullish on stocks that are attractive and whose fundamentals are strong. If you look at the 9-month results, many of the companies have reported negative earnings, both top line and bottom line. So if investors are going to rally on any stock, those are likely going to be the dividend-paying stocks. And I mean, those are the ones that they can be confident in. But if you look at what is happening in the market and all the uncertainties in the market, and except for the liquidity that we saw based on CBN's announcement last week, that is likely to push portfolio managers to be bullish on equities if the yield they are getting in the fixed income market is not as attractive. Apart from that upside, which can be negated by the weak fundamentals of the economy at the moment. Except for this issue, we think the likelihood for the market to stay weak they continue this December.
Olawale, so how soon, therefore, do you think perhaps we'll see some of the trickling in of the liquidity easing a program of the central bank that we believe now that has been teed off with this CRR, the corridor, the CRR, whatever. How soon do you think this will get some feeling into the equities market? Most likely first quarter?
Well, okay, if I look at what happened last week, investors just reacted for a day and the market went back to its downward trend. Except for towards the end of the year, maybe in about 1 to 2 weeks from now, if portfolio managers want to make their end of the year book look good, they may begin to rally. But if we look at from short to medium term, which is first quarter in your opinion, 2016, I think that what would drive an appreciation in equities, I don't think it will be more of a huge liquidity in the system, but much more of the direction in the economy, most especially coming from the fiscal and monetary space. These are the key issues that we think might drive the performance of the equity. If investors don't see signs of strength in the economy, talking about the fiscal direction, talking about pronouncement on FX, talking about issues that will bring down inflation and strengthen corporate earnings. These are fundamental issues that will drive investors' confidence in what they expect from corporate earnings that will trigger whether they want to invest in this sector or the other. Until that confidence is restored in the market, we don't think there's a major issue that can drive appreciation in the Nigerian stock market, except for short-term speculative trades that we'll be seeing. But until the clarity for 2016, or I mean a reasonable period of time is clear, most especially from the policy and of course the fiscal and monetary manager, we don't think the current trend will abate.
Well, thank you for your perspectives and insight and putting some of the issues, the broader Main Street into the market context. Thank you very much for your time today via Skype from Lagos here, investment research analyst at AfroInvest. And that's drawing the curtain on today's edition of Business Morning. I am Bosun Amafaye. Well, thank you very much for watching. Well, I'll see you tomorrow at the same time, bright and early, the third trading day and the second day in December. Bye for now. Do have a great day. I am Bosun Amafaye once again. See you then.